Now let us discuss another 10 marker. This is something that I have not covered in paper 1 lectures, but we will be covering this now. The question is asking you to discuss various arguments related to the concept of cultural lag. Now this concept of cultural lag, it was propounded by Ogburn and Nimkoff. These two scholars, they propounded this concept of cultural lag. What does it indicate? These scholars argue that technology, forces of production, they change at a much faster pace. They change rapidly. Whereas culture, values, norms, institutions of society, various cultural practices, they lag behind. They are changing at a much slower rate. So therefore there is a lag between technology and culture, and this cultural lag creates various societal issues, various societal problems. Now why is technology changing at a much faster rate? Because see, in the modern society there is continuous, incessant innovation, and capitalist system is such that there is intense competition between the various bourgeois or the capitalist of the ruling class. So they are continuously innovating, they want to outdo each other. So there is, it has taken altogether a different level. There is a rapid updation of technology. Whereas culture is not changing. Why? Due to cultural inertia. People are deeply committed to collective conscience. Due to process of socialization, these values and norms, they have been internalized by people. So they have become a part of their personality system. So therefore, it is not easy for people to let go of their cultural practices or to adopt new ways of living, new values, new norms. So therefore, there is cultural inertia due to these factors, and this is a non-material culture. When I am talking about culture, I am talking about non-material culture. When I am talking about technology, I am talking about material culture. So culture in itself, it has two facets, but don't go into that. So this theory of cultural lag, it was propounded by Ogburn and Nimkoff. Now these people argue that technology, forces of production, material culture changes at a faster rate, it changes rapidly. Whereas culture, non-material culture, values, norms, beliefs, collective conscience, institutions of state and society they are not able to keep pace with the technological changes. They are changing at a much slower speed, and therefore culture lags behind technology and leads to cultural lag, and this it creates various problems in society. We'll be looking into that. So why is this the case that culture is changing slowly? Due to cultural inertia. People's mindset and values do not change easily. Due to process of socialization, they are deeply committed to collective conscience. So it is much slower. Whereas technology is changing rapidly, especially in modern societies or capitalist mode of production, wherein there is incessant and continuous innovation. So the technological changes are much more faster. So let us talk about various scholars. Marx argued that it is the forces of production which will become more and more superior. As the forces of production change, production relations also correspondingly change. This production relation should be commensurate with the forces of production. These production relations should be such that they should best be able to tap into the newer forces of production. As the base is changing, then the entire superstructure changes, including culture as well. This was the relation between technology and culture that Marx portrayed. But let us talk about some Indian scholars. M.N. Srinivas says that India is witnessing external westernization and internal Sanskritization. That is, our mindset is not changing. Our mindset is still outdated. We are still driven by primordial identities of caste, religion, all this stuff. We are still driven by traditions. Man is a deeply religious man in India. He is deeply committed to traditions. Whereas externally, we are trying to adopt modern technology, modern gadgets, expensive cars, listen to new music, and adopt newer technologies, change you know, taking different attires, modern attires, Western attires, speaking English languages. So we are externally Westernized, but internally we are still Sanskritized. So that is how man internally is driven by Sanskritization and externally by Westernization. So M.N. Srinivas, external Westernization and internal Sanskritization. Mindset is traditional, it is conservative, whereas adoption of newer technology, new attires, new music, new gadgets is also taking place simultaneously. Similarly, Louis Dumont, he says India has gone for technological transformation, LPG reforms, all this stuff. So there is a rapid uptake of technology by Indian political system, maybe from diffusion from outside. So India has gone for technological transformation. There is continuous updation, innovation within Indian nation state, but it has not gone for value transformation. Its values is still the same, culture is still the same, mindset is still the same. The cognitive structures have not changed. So this is something that he argued. India has gone for technological transformation rather than value transformation. Example, you will say in Jat hinterland, you will see this menace of honor killings. So they are deeply committed to their traditions. There should not be any inter-caste marriage. Marriage should be arranged in nature. It should not be love marriage. There should not be any inter-religious marriage. There is prevalence of Kaarwan panchayats, but simultaneously you will see increasing amount of wealth. You will see expensive and lavish weddings. People driving expensive cars, wearing Western expensive clothes, wearing new gadgets, technological gadgets, driving expensive cars, having iPhones. So honor killings and iPhones are going hand in hand. So Jat hinterland, rise in honor killings plus obscene display of wealth and modernity. So modernity has penetrated there, but it has been selectively adopted by them. Then expensive cars, expensive weddings, gadgets, etc. So from this extension, we can say cognitive structures are still the same, and therefore this is the reason why caste is still persisting in India. Louis Dumont says that casteism is still there in India. Caste lies in the minds and hearts of the Indian people. Caste constitutes an important part of human cognition in case of India. It shapes the cognitive structures of Indian mind. Therefore, caste is not going to go away with increase in technology. It is not going to be replaced by class. This is something which is basically rejected by Louis Dumont. And then again, different argument we can bring, that worsening of sex ratio, female feticide or sex determination test. This is basically a confluence of what? Internally, cognitive structures, we are still driven by the oppressive patriarchy. Girls are still unwanted even in modern times. In fact, man is using the modern technology in order to kill daughters prior to their birth in the womb itself. So technology updation has taken place. This ultrasound technology, which should have been used for catching genetic defects in a new baby, right, when it is still fetus, which should have been there to detect genetic anomalies in a child. These are being used to determine the sex of the child and then to kill the child when it is still fetus, when it is still in the womb of the mother. So this is outcome of improper adoption of technology. Parsons will say that cultural system is not adjusting to demands of organismic systems. Organismic system is based on economy and technology taking inputs from the environment in a cybernetic hierarchy of control, and this is disturbing to what? Because these different parts and subparts, these subsystems, they are not in sync with each other, and therefore this is leading to what? Cultural lag. It is creating problems. It is disturbing the dynamic equilibrium, and therefore it is disturbing the stasis or stability of society. so disturbing the dynamic equilibrium and stasis of the social system. Then you can bring in the arguments of Gunnar Myrdal. He wrote a book, Asian Drama. In this he says, Indian society, its culture, institutions, they lack capability. Indian culture, values are such that they lack capability to properly adopt Western technology, Western aid, Western finances, modern business processes, so as to embark India on the path of development. So Gunnar Myrdal in 1950s, he is part of the modernist scholars, he was analyzing that even after availability of newer technologies, Western aid, manpower, Western manpower associating Indian manpower, sharing of technologies, why is India still not developing? And then he argued there are cultural barriers to development. The values and norms of Indian society are such that these cultural values, they pose a barrier to development because this technology is not being properly adopted. So Indian society is closed society based on ascriptive status, still dominated by caste. It is not a meritocratic system. It is not an open system. People are still, instead of modernizing, they are concerned about assertion of their primordial identities of caste, religion, ethnicity, language, region. Identity politics is there in India. And then he talks about that Indian state is a soft state. It is reluctant to effectively implement its law. It has brought various laws to reform the society, but it does not have sufficient willpower, the political will, to properly implement these laws. For example, there are laws on dowry, but it has not been implemented. So this state is guided by populist policies, and it is a soft state. It is not taking hard decisions to completely transform the culture and institutions of society. Then Indian society, its culture, institutions, they lack a capability for proper adoption of newer technologies or processes. There are cultural barriers to development. So this cultural lag is leading to developmental lag. And the reasons are, they are still committed to primordial loyalties, caste, religion, ethnicity, language, region. This is a closed system, a scriptive system based on caste. Then identity politics, there is a closed system, not recognizing any mobility or merit in society. And then the institution itself, it is a soft state. There is a lack of political willpower to implement tough decisions. For example, lack of interference in socio-cultural practices. There are laws on dowry, but these laws are not implemented. There are laws on child marriage, but these are not implemented. Why is it not the case? That it is still driven by populist policies, that good politics is actually bad economics, and that is why India is not developing. So there is a conflict between tradition and modernity here. Then you can talk about how in modern cosmopolitan multicultural societies, modern societies, multiple cultures coexist with each other. Multiple cultural groups coexist with each other. People of multiple ethnicities, multiple religions, multiple identities, they are coexisting. Now these different cultures, they are basically adopting to technology at different paces. One culture might be rapidly adopting to technology, other cultural groupings might be lagging behind. So one culture might be more modernized, other cultures will be less modernized. Now this is creating different kind of cognitive structures, and it is creating cognitive conflicts, ethnic conflicts in society. Why? For example, in India there have been attempts to modernize madrasas to ensure adoption of science, technology and mathematics in madrasa based education, which was resisted. In some madrasas it is there, in some madrasas it is resisted. And then there is similarly in Europe, the cultural minorities, they are not being able to properly integrate into the mainstream of society. These cultural minorities, they are asserting their cultural autonomy. So there is a resistance to reform. Whereas the majority says that they are not properly integrating in our society. We are rapidly modernizing. Our cultural values and norms are changing. But there is this is a part of cultural lag. Different cultures are adopting technology and changing their culture at different paces, and this is leading to a kind of a conflict between these different groupings in society. So modern cosmopolitan multicultural societies, coexistence of multiple cultural identities, religion, ethnicities. Now some of these cultures, they are modernizing themselves at a different pace. Some are faster, some are slower, and there is cultural lag. Cultural lag in some groups or culture is greater than cultural lag in other groups or culture. For example, some cultural groups are more advanced or modernized, whereas others are lagging behind. There is lack of modernization. So there is different kind of cognitive structures in a cosmopolitan society. And this is leading to ethnic or religious conflict in societies. For example, in Europe, there is lack of proper integration of ethnic minorities in the mainstream of society. Similarly, there have been attempts at modernization of madrasas in India. They are met with opposition or resistance. So minorities' assertion of cultural autonomy and majorities' attempt of cultural reforms, it is leading to cultural conflicts in society. Then, technology is changing at a much faster rate, and there is modernity is making a demand on the people that you change your culture fast. You rapidly adopt to modernity, to adopt to modern technologies, so that you can also modernize yourself. You can also develop. But this is leading to what? See, this is leading to people reacting against the aggression of modernity. They are emphasizing their cultural practices, and this is leading to ethnic revivalism and religious fundamentalism. What is religious fundamentalism? This is a reaction of the fundamentalist against the aggressive modernity. And that is why they say we want to go back to the past. We want to implement the Sharia law. We want to ensure literal interpretation of doctrines. This is something that Taliban is trying to do in Afghanistan. Similarly, in Pakistan, you will see the society is becoming more and more radicalized. Same is going on in Bangladesh. Why is this the reason? Because they are resisting modernity. They are resisting the changes taking place at the level of culture. They are resisting how women are getting more and more freedom. So this is the case. So reaction against aggressive modernity or rapid social change, it is met with assertion of primordial identities of religious fundamentalism, ethnic revivalism. So various problems are created due to this cultural lag. First is population explosion. See, in demographic transition theory, you will study in the first stage there are high birth rate and there is high death rate. So therefore population is stable. In second stage, what happens is due to newer technologies, contraceptive use, due to better health systems, death rate declines rapidly, whereas the birth rate does not decline rapidly. Why? Because people not have been able to adopt this technology. They are not been able to change their culture. Because ideally they should have brought the birth rate down. This is something which has not happened. So higher birth rate in the second demographic transition stage and lower death rate. It leads to population explosion. So India is in the stage of population explosion, second stage. But India is at the end of this stage. Why we are at the end of this stage? Because our total fertility rate, it has dropped below the replacement level of 2.1. Then female feticide. Then ethical issues and debates around, that due to rapid updation of technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, machines are going to do more and more jobs. Then you need to ensure certain sort of universal basic income to people. But these debates are not happening in society. So technology is changing rapidly, but at the same time, our institutions, our debates which should be happening at an ethical or moral level in order to, address these frequent or rapid changes, that is something which is not happening, and there is a gap which is leading to some sort of societal problems. Then stem cell research is there, cloning is happening, people are now able to prolong their life, but there is no ethical debates or issues or moral debates regarding this. Then social media, rapid adoption of social media, there is a decentralization of opinion. Now even a common man will be able to voice their opinion on a social media platform. Earlier, mass media was controlled by few people, but this is not the case now with the rise of social media. But at the same time, you will see there is a rise in hate speeches, pornography, cyberbullying, and sexual harassment. So we have still not been able to change our mindset. So we should be changing that. So all these problems are the result of the cultural lag in society.